Visit selfhelpforrobots.com. Welcome to Self-Help for Robots. I'm your host, CJ Pitchford, and this episode, Robots Have Feelings Too, will explore what a model of emotions might be useful for. But before we begin, let's define emotions as a holistic interpretation of a mental state. When talking about non-robots, we could be referring to hunger or pain, but I hope that's not the case for robots who lack the biological mechanisms. As I mentioned last week, a lot of the research into emotions is based on an incomplete understanding of the physiological sources without even a comprehension of what emotions might mean. I mean, if any emotion could be a goal for a robot or non-robot, I would hazard a guess that joy would rank right up there. It's better than meh. And if those two emotions could be related, after research by Robert Plutchik, you can say that understanding the difference between the two is relative and subjective, but still quantifiable. Now, if we can learn, like in the last episode, a way to model a simple emotion like I am okay along 3 axes, then we can extend that idea beyond mere identification of emotions, but how they are transformed, possibly how they can be manipulated. And that has serious implications. So on the website for this podcast, you could read more at selfhelpforrobots.com, where I wrote about defining simple emotions. David Anderson from Caltech, he proposes that even insects have emotion-like states, or what he called emotion primitives. So why not robots? In defining emotions, I'm clear that I'm separating feelings from behaviors. Many models I've seen, including one that I've mentioned many times previously, the pleasure arousal dominance model, are used incorrectly, confusing emotion with behavior. That's not the only confusion inherent in a model where each so-called measurable axis is not truly independent from the others. In the Orthographic Model of Emotions from the last episode, an operative hypothesis means that a model can be both descriptive and predictive. And in this case, we could look at that feeling of joy that can be found in a relationship, and how feelings of trust can be generated by a transformation of joy over the domains of inner and outer self, as well as linking events between the present and the future. Now, to make that less abstract, let's consider a robot or non-robot even, just robotically giving flowers to a potential companion or partner. Would a robot mimic an old tradition without a purpose? Could a robot understand the concept that's behind the feelings associated with that act? Now, without a model to work from, it seems that big data and artificial intelligence are mining mountains of data for nuggets of truth. And if it seems that way, that's because it's exactly what is going on. But what if we can find a mathematical model for that little nugget and use the predictive and descriptive properties of the model to jump to the head of the line and skip the mining of whole mountains? So if a robot or a non-robot wishes to establish trust in a relationship, it needs to understand what trust is. Think of how incredibly different one statement, I trust you, and its implications when compared with I trusted you. By examining the emotion of trust as a positive feeling on that axis of gain, an emotion, then it can embody also, this trust emotion can really connect outside of oneself, which we measure on the axis of domain. But what about the sense of time on the event axis, where the feeling of trust exists in a context of the present, but may be based on expectations of the future? So put it another way, trust may reside in the present, but is based on judgments of the past and anticipation of the future. Now, we can make predictions using a model, and expecting a future event on that axis of events, we might be able to see in a model that the positive feelings associated with another, and that is that other bringing joy, now that can be experienced in the present and then, well, transformed into an expectation by repetition of that joy over time. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to the next episode, and I hope you do too. That is, we'll continue this in the next episode. Robots can't feel what I feel. And until then, whether you're robot or non-robot, please keep helping yourself.